pressing, potentially disastrous enemy has come to the Rohingya.
Here comes the rain.
Yeah, we can go there.
Can I get under your thing for a second? This is what the million people, the million Rohingyas in this refugee camp are having to put up with. This is the monsoon season. This is a crisis on top of a crisis. It is raining like crazy. It's not going to stop raining. This is no ordinary rain. This is a monsoon. And what's happening, what's already happened, is there are mudslides. But that's not where it stops. I mean, look, here's a latrine, but the latrines are filthy. And what happens is they make the water filthy. There's water running all the way through here. You can see the water underneath me. It just doesn't stop raining. And it's just a breeding ground for all sorts of diseases. You've got cholera and so many other diseases that come when you have filthy water. And that's just the beginning. But how can anyone expect these people to get food to live? How can you expect their structures to stand up? And now the structures are literally going to wash down upon each other. Bridges are washing away. This is what the spotlight needs to be put on, because these people are dead.
Sand dunes, because they're deforested lands that have no way of protecting the population against the monsoon rains. And so it's very likely that most of these settlements will get washed out as the rains increase and the storms become more intense.
We identified something like 200,000 people are at risk from landslides with this heavy monsoon. It's almost like a race against time.
Shelley Thakral gave up a career as a journalist to work in crisis environments just like this one.
We've been trying to really move families as fast as we can to flatter, safer land, so relocated to a part of the camp which has been flattened, but also so that safer shelter can also be built.
I walked the camp with Rebecca Derry, the country representative for Samaritan's Purse, a U.S.-based Christian relief organization. Dozens of agencies from all over the world, including the United States, have sent teams to the camp to help the Rohingya. They're providing medical care, shelter materials, food, and dozens of other relief services. The camp is too large and the need too great for just one agency to handle it all. They've split Kutupalong into a number of smaller camps where individual charities take responsibility.
What is this camp called? Where this is still the Camp 12?
Yes.
20,000 plus live here?
20,000 plus.
And you can see how all the houses or homes are built into this hilly terrain. So when the monsoon starts in earnest, it creates a horrible danger.
Absolutely.
So what's to protect these houses from?
So traumatized that I'm told he just roams around aimlessly. She was helped by care. Like Fatima, there are dozens of others needing immediate help. The needs come flooding in every day, every hour, every minute.
Every single moment the crisis builds. This is interesting. Here comes an ambulance. Before I was talking about how dangerous it is, how do you get cars in to help people? This is an ambulance. Hello, sir. It's very dangerous up there. You might want to drive slow. I can go? I don't know if you can go or not. They say that, but I don't know. You'll be the first to go through, and it's pretty narrow. Why don't you get out of the car and go look at it?
I have a patient already.
You have a patient in there? Do you have a patient in there?
Yeah. And I have a patient.
Where are you trying to get it to the patient to? To the hospital right there. We're up on the hill? See, this is what the danger is. This is an ambulance. And when I say something new happens every 5 minutes, before I was talking about how the road washed down, how dangerous it was. Now we've got a patient in an ambulance trying to get to the hospital up there. And this road is supposedly repaired, but even my own weight, I can push the soil down. Wait till the rain comes. I don't know what happens when heavy vehicles go through. Every time you turn around, there's another bigger crisis, and you wonder how much more can these people endure? How much more? And it just doesn't stop.
For the refugees, it's a perfect storm. Persecution, mudslides, idleness, disease. While there is much that is good that is being done here, this camp has also become a target for those who would come to prey on the Rohingya. The Kutupalong refugee camp in Bangladesh is just across the river from the home of the Rohingya. The Myanmar military has driven nearly 1 million Rohingya to this camp.
Textbook ethnic
The
cleansing.
international community has condemned the government for the violence against Rohingya civilians that amounted to what the United Nations termed as ethnic cleansing.
Every woman or girl I spoke with reported having either endured or witnessed sexual violence.
It is imperative that the international community take decisive measures to address this grave crisis.
It's a humanitarian crisis, only made worse by the monsoon rains. The Rohingya here are caught in limbo. They cannot have jobs, there are no schools, there are few sources of information. They sit idle, unhappy, and largely dependent on aid supplied by under the camps to take advantage of the crisis. As so often happens, the victims are victimized a second time. Most vulnerable are women and young girls who are targeted by traffickers to be lured or taken and used for forced labor or sex.
I discovered traffickers after sunset. 5 o'clock, there is no foreigners and no locals allowed.
I met with a human rights activist in nearby Cox's Bazar. Ali Kabir had worked in agriculture his whole life. He says he could no longer remain silent while others were suffering at the hands of some Rohingya who themselves had fled years before.
Only old Rohingyas, those who are registered here since 1978, 1991, old Rohingyas, they are staying in Bangladesh. They know everything. They know every rules. They are very familiar with Bangladesh culture. Human traffickers hiding them. And they go inside the camp and talk with the families, convince.
For the latest exodus of Rohingyas from Myanmar?
Yep.
So you're talking the population that's doing the trafficking are Rohingya who have been here in Bangladesh for a number of years.
Yes, they are become a broker of the big trafficking network.
How do they get the women out of the camps? Because the Bangladesh government won't let the Rohingyas leave the camps. I mean, the Rohingyas who came over from Myanmar in the last year and a half can't leave the camps. So how do the brokers get them out of the camps?
Well, ma'am, I tell you, here in Bangladesh have no system in checkpost. In checkpost, they check only Bangladesh NID card, national ID card, and human traffickers obtain fake national ID card.
He also showed me pictures of the women he says were victims.
So she's Rohingya
Yes.
from the refugee camp, and they were going to sell her or bring her out of the country.
Yes.
What was she getting paid? Do you know? And what was the offer?
Offer was providing her in a beauty parlor job abroad, Malaysia, Thailand, and providing her, in a job in a factory.
Did you ever speak to her parents or her family?
Yeah, I speak to her parents. They was very in shock after they learned the real story, real thing.
So they thought it was a legitimate deal that she was going overseas for this career.
Yes.
Did any of them get emotional?
They just requested me not to tell this thing to the other people because her future will be dark.
Future in terms of getting a husband or future employment?
Not insult them. They will not get a well respect, and they will not get sitting with the other relatives. They're going to hate her. They will look at her in a very, in a bad eyes.
Are Rohingya families protesting about this or complaining? Are they seeing anything if a member of their family goes off into some sex trade?
Well, ma'am, where they're going to protest? There is no any proper place where they can go submit a complaint, where they can go seek a legal process, where they can go seek justice, where they can go.
I was in a forced marriage for 8 months. I was told the army could take me away by force. It would be better if I got married in order to save my honor. Since my mother is blind, she agreed to marry me off. We had just arrived in Bangladesh for the first time. We didn't know anything about the place. We didn't know the laws or the rules. We came here with a lot of fear from all the violence.
They are very helpless, hopeless. There was no police. They are in the camp, nothing, and there was, in a fair, and they given the daughter to him.
So she goes with him. Was she crying or screaming or upset or agreeable? I mean, what?
She don't want it to.
I was so upset. My mom said God has not given permission, but those people said it was God.
Pressuring him, he let her.
So he let her go?
Let her go. This Rohingya girl have no value.
No value?
No value.
Because she's Rohingya?
Yes.
Zero?
Zero.
And there's something else the Rohingya here don't talk about. When the Burmese military attacked, they didn't just kill and set houses on fire. They raped. And the victims of those rapes are here now. They face a terrible stain that their own culture puts on them and on their newborns.
We're seeing a lot of women that are coming in right about now that have voiced to us that the babies are a result of rape.
Sarah Rawlings is a nurse from Seattle, Washington. She both treats and counsels the victims. The challenges she faces are heartbreaking.
It's a really hard one. We've seen some pretty dire things happen as a result of unwanted pregnancy. Community health workers found a baby that had been left in a latrine, was still alive, but covered in feces. They've been actually trying to track down and find the woman, but since the baby has been taken into another organization and they're feeding the baby and trying to offer support and find community members that can help raise the child.
So they expect this child to survive that was found in the feces in the latrine.
Lamide Adeyemi, and this is the news update. Millions of Muslims across the globe are celebrating Eid al-Adha, one of the biggest holidays in the Islamic calendar. Known as the Feast of Sacrifice, the revered observance coincides with the final rite of the annual Hajj in Saudi Arabia. Eid al-Adha commemorates the Quranic tale of Prophet Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son Ishmael as an act of obedience to God. The day is marked with the sacrifice of an animal, usually a goat, sheep or cow, and the distribution of the meat among neighbors, family members, and the poor. Prominent politicians, including Femi Gbajabiamila, the Chief of Staff to the President, Nuhu Ribadu, National Security Advisor, Babatunde Fashola, the former Minister of Works and Housing, and Mudashiru Obasa, the Speaker of the Lagos House of Assembly.
A burden that you cannot carry. When you, as a citizen of this country, you must identity, no tribal identity. Live with one another in joy and prosperity. It will come. Nigeria will see peace, stability, and God will grant peace to those of us who are in the war front. We spare their life, we give them victory. Those in the hospitals, we give them succor and peace, and keep them in good health, path to recovery. So he will just be spiritually uplifting. Have faith. Allah is there.
The Kaduna State Police Command has assured its readiness to provide adequate security arrangements for a hitch-free Saleh celebration across the 23 local government areas of the state. The State Police Commissioner, CP Musa Gabra, who stated this at the strategic security meeting with DPOs and police officers, be entertained in the state.
All the DPOs to ensure that we don't record any ugly incident during this Salah festivity. I want all the residents in Kaduna to have a free Salah, and I don't want any disruption during this festivity. Everybody must enjoy himself, so long as it does not affect other people's rights, because you cannot enjoy yourself and try to distract other people from doing the same. So I will have deployment of more than 12,000 policemen, and these policemen are going to be visible everywhere within the Kaduna metropolis and outside. All the DPOs in the local government are here, and they have been warned that they should go back and make sure that they provide proper security and ensure that the Salah is.
He warned the residents anything that will undermine the peace, unity and security enjoyed in the state, while urging personnel not to compromise standard which will have negative impact in the society and police force.
Everybody should make sure that he keeps to himself. We are all citizens of this country, and we should not their time. If they had their field day other times, now is not their time. Everybody think that is against law. So if I just want to ask the hoodlums that they should ensure that they respect themselves, because we are ready for them.
The Commander General of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, Dr. Ahmed Audi, has added the deployment of 40,000 personnel across the country for a Hajj celebration. Those deployed are to ensure the protection of critical national infrastructure, according to a statement from the Director of Public Relations of the Corps, Olushola Odumosu. The CG charged all heads of formation to leave no stone unturned in ensuring effective security coverage of the country. He urged them to increase their level of vigilance and be highly sensitive to their environment, especially during this festive period, to avoid unpleasant surprises from enemies of the country. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has stated that it will be unfair to evaluate it based on the upload error that occurred during the presidential election on February 25th, and that it does not represent all polls. And presented on Monday, Okoye claimed that despite the difficulties encountered, many Nigerians applauded the Electoral Authority for using the bimodal voter accreditation system during the general elections.
As far as we are concerned, we are going to present our reports. We are going to make our submissions to the court. We are going to present what we know and what we did during the elections to the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal and all the other election petition tribunals, and they will make a determination on going forward. But as far as the commission is concerned, there were so many positives to this election. There were also significant challenges and problems with the election.
we are going to address those challenges and those problems. And if we receive most of the reports from the domestic and international observers, we harmonize them, take out the actionable ones that have administrative flavor, we will implement them. If there are still challenges with the Electoral Act 2022 and the constitutional framework, we will also join Nigerians and go before the National Assembly to get both the constitutional and legal framework amended. But let me say this, that as Nigerians, we must have faith in our democratic institutions, we must have faith in our democracy, and we must continue to work on our democracy, because the electoral process and democracy will keep on improving. There is no country in the world how strong a democracy is.
Governor Sharif Obarevori of Delta State said his administration will continue to partner with traditional institutions in consolidating the tempo of sustainable development in the state through the execution of his more agenda.
Deltans. I want to be governor for all Deltans, and I'm a governor for all Deltans. If your kingdom is peaceful, the state is peaceful, and I know that we have more peace in this administration. This administration is your administration. It's not administration for PDP. It's administration for all Deltans. Whether you are APC, whether you are PDP, whether you are ABGA, we have won election. Everybody's won. Most important thing is how will bring more development to the people, how we're able to
any before for people in Sudan suffering from the war for more than 70 days. Residents reported here the 17th ceasefire to be announced since the start of the conflict on April 15th is no guarantee of their safety after violations of the previous ceasefire. Sudan's conflict has killed at least 2,000 civilians and wounded many others. Peace talks brokered by the United States and Saudi Arabia have failed to make progress, and fighting has intensified in recent weeks as a result. And outside Africa, France is braced for further protest after the police shot dead a teenager, an incident which French President Emmanuel Macron said has moved the entire nation. Clashes broke out between demonstrators and police overnight after an officer killed the 17-year-old in a Paris suburb. The teenager, identified as Niall M., allegedly failed to comply with the police order to stop his car on Tuesday. He was driving a rental car when the police pulled him over for breaking several road rules. The car moved a few meters before crashing. Emergency services tried to resuscitate the teenager at the scene, but he died shortly afterwards. In business, the Lagos State government says it will commence the implementation of the levy for annual proof of ownership certificate for vehicles in the month of July. Abdulaziz Toriola, the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Transportation, announced the development at a news conference on Tuesday. Toriola said the Joint Tax Board on May 9th approved the resolution that proof of ownership is issued to motorists on an annual basis nationwide. The permanent secretary said the initiative aims to streamline and enhance the process of vehicle ownership verification. Meanwhile, Afrobeat sensation Seyi Vibes announced the free show for Ikorodu residents. Since he released his debut album, $1 Billion Baby, in 2022, Seyi Vibes has been on an ascension with his music winning him millions of new listeners and rocketing him to the summit of the mainstream. The Afrobeat superstar is set to delight his Ikorodu fans with a free show scheduled for early July 2023. In a post on his Twitter account, Seyi Vibes shared that it has been 3 years since Thy Kingdom Come. His latest album is his fourth release in 8 months, and this has come as a shock for fans who continue to be surprised by the frequency of his release. With his current rise into the mainstream, his upcoming show at the Ikorodu Town Hall can be expected to be sold out. Finally, in sport, Crystal Palace forward Wilfred Zaha and Rapid Stomse have agreed on a deal to buy non-league club AFC Croydon. They grew up in the South London borough and are part of a three-man consortium alongside former Palace head of player care Danny Young. AFC Croydon competes in the ninth tier of English football. And that's the news update. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex on Limex.tv and Glow TV apps anywhere in the world. I'm Olamide Adeyemi. Many thanks for watching.
Ideas belong to you, but your inventions belong to everyone. Certainly, there is a question of whether innovators owe the world a duty to make it a better place. In today's world, the most ubiquitous piece of technology is the mobile phone. The history of mobile phones dates back to 1908, when a US patent was issued in Kentucky for a wireless telephone. Yet, it took till 1940 for engineers working at AT&T to develop cells for mobile phone base stations. This led to an early form of mobile phones, which were really just two-way radios. On the 3rd of April 1973, Motorola was the first company to mass produce the first handheld mobile phone, and more manufacturers subsequently got in on the act. By August 2001, mobile phones were introduced in Nigeria, and since then have become available to both the old and the young. It has influenced the way we socialize, listen to music, and has turned every amateur into a pro photographer. Today, most mobile phones rely on 3G or 4G technology, with 5G on the immediate horizon. The evolution of the technology to smartphones has raised the bar of personal computing. To help us understand what mobile phones represent to our society today, we spoke to a telecoms expert and an entrepreneur who gave us their impressions and opinions on the tech.
I'm a telecoms expert. I've had trainings in information technologies for my bachelor's and postgraduate studies. Presently, I work with one of the biggest operators in the continent, Africa.
I'm a dentist. I'm also a fabric and fashion entrepreneur.
Mobile phone has bridged the gap for communications and connectivity between people, regardless of their distance, can communicate and interact. As it were before, we would have to send letters that would take days and possibly weeks or months, or you would have to travel long distances to connect with loved ones and friends.
My husband most times is not home, he's not around. Imagine if we didn't have mobile phones, communication would have been an issue. With my mobile phone, I can reach out to him, video call, normal calls, we communicate, even my kids.
Conducting business with international and even local partners has never been easier, with mobile banking now commonplace and video conferencing available on the go.
E-commerce or banking. If you need to pay for a service, you don't have to go to your bank, withdraw the money from the teller and go and pay. We have cashless systems where you could use your phone from your app, pay for your services.
So I can imagine what I would have done with my business without mobile phone, carry out any transactions. So most of it happens on the phone, local transactions, international transactions. With phones, I post pictures. I reach out to my suppliers anywhere and everywhere in the world with my phone. And I get my products using my phone. Especially because I don't have a physical store, I don't have a shop, so my business is online. So it makes it mobile, so I can run my business from anywhere. Sometimes I'm out of the country and I'm still running my business just because I have my phone.
Smartphones offer us greater computing power than the computers NASA used in 1969 to launch the Apollo 11 space shuttle to the moon. These operated with floppy disks, offering kilobytes or megabytes of storage at the most. Today, the storage capacity of smartphones can reach as high as 128 gigabytes.
If I don't have to go to the bank and then carry out transactions with my mobile app, it's a plus. If I don't have to go to the grocery store and request for grocery from the comfort of my home with my mobile phone, it's a plus. But if we begin to use the mobile phone in a wrong way, then it becomes harmful.
The greater social awareness afforded by mobile phones has made us more
media services where you can post your pictures, you can post your location at any time. You can post about your food, their location. You enable your GPS location and it states, okay, I'm taking this picture from Lagos. So they know this person is in Lagos this day, this week. So there are informations hitherto we think it's just fun. I'm just letting the world know where I am, but your privacy is being eroded and you are giving out too much information to people, strangers you don't know. And it's very, very alarming that people don't even understand the harm they cause themselves. You put your home address, you put details of your work or details of your family online, and you just expose them to attacks from strangers, to unnecessary scrutiny.
Yet, with such potential dangers of mobile phone usage, not everyone is concerned.
Funny enough, no. I don't know why, for some reasons. Maybe because I'm careful with the things I put on my phone. Of course, you won't put too personal stuffs on the phone, very personal things, you won't put them on your phone.
In today's
the efficiency that comes with being able to access information. Prior to now, for students, if you are doing a research, you might need to go to the library and book for a particular textbook, and it takes you a while before it gets your turn for you to have access to that textbook. But from the comfort of your home or from your classroom or wherever, you could turn up your phone and search for an ebook, and that ebook becomes instrumental for you to carry out your assignments or carry out your research, as the case may be.
However, there is also a cost to young people and their education. The distraction it offers makes concentration on schoolwork and other things harder for them.
The negative effect mobile phones will have on young people is their over-dependency on the information they get from mobile phones. Some people get distracted by some content that they see or lured into vices that becomes harmful to them.
The greater dependence on mobile phones has created less need for a personal computer. And this trend portends a future where personal computers become a relic of the past.
personal computer. I can't remember the last time I opened my laptop.
Documents with your phone, so in the long run, your mobile phone should be able to do
Evolved enough to keep up with the evolution of our technology. The irony of a device created to make us feel more connected is that more people are feeling more isolated than ever. And the worry for our society is if we can find that elusive balance. We must always ask ourselves if our dependence on technology, as symbolized by how we use our mobile phones, is a good thing for our social health.
Now, the absence of stable, effective, and fairly priced electricity supply in Nigeria has been a long-standing challenge for manufacturers. The worrisome development has compelled many manufacturing industries to supplement their unreliable electricity supply with alternative energy sources. Regrettably, the available alternative energy sources such as diesel have become exorbitantly expensive. On average, survey data by MAN suggests that manufacturers spend at least 144.5 billion naira on sourcing alternative energy in 2022, up from 7. Electricity tariff has been increased by 186%. The fact that government itself is owing 75 billion naira in unpaid electricity bill is indicative of how burdensome the cost of electricity has become. On the show today, we will be speaking with the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, on the impact of the new electricity law, the proposed increase in tariffs over the years, and of course how it has impacted on their business. Welcome to Business Insight and Plus TV Africa. I am Justin Akadonye. All right, first off, we'll start with this feature on improving healthcare financing
mechanisms. Unfortunately, achieving the correct blend remains a challenge. Medical experts have converged on this CME meeting put together by Cleaner Lancet to tackle some of the inherent challenges. Access to healthcare, interdisciplinary collaboration, as well as medical assets financing take center stage.
We know that most of the patients in Nigeria, about 70% of them are out of pocket. But there are initiatives that have been in place. We've always had health insurance. We have donors as well. And the government has also earmarked the basic healthcare fund that they've put in place to be able to help the citizen to access it. So apart from budgetary allocation, these are areas and ways that we can now see that the government as well, and even the private sector, is trying to synergize and help to, ensure that the citizens are able to afford healthcare.
There are lots of healthcare enthusiasts that do not even have access to the right funding, thereby not being able to set up, the kind of standard that they probably want to set up, not being able to, the kind of technology or equipment, modern equipment that are necessary for, a startup healthcare organization. So basically, in the medical laboratory space where we play, over the years there's been improvement, there's been a lot of entrants.
The professionals discuss on cancer management in Nigeria, its efficiency, and the need to ensure standardization in the medical laboratory science space.
That go into determining what we now talk about in cancer care is individualized, personalized treatment. And it means that if Mr. A and Mr. B have a particular cancer, because of their genetic makeup, they will not manifest the cancer in the same way, and they may necessarily not benefit from the same treatment. So those are the things that will be updating the community about that. Cancer is not one disease, but it is a heterogeneous disease.
And for the laboratory, what is expected is the ISO 15189, the 2012 version. Now, 2 days ago, the 2022 version was just published. So it gives room for additional provisions for the capturing of the quality standard. So when you understand the quality standard, now you begin to look at it, how can we implement it? So the implementation of it is key. Now, some of the challenges include the ability for us to understand what is expected from us, 2 personnel that have this quality management system experts, the infrastructure, technology to ensure that this is done. And with the rate of brain drain currently in the country, a lot of our experts which we are training are moving across the country.
There is a Dan.
Welcome back from that one. I am now being joined by the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, Segun Ajayi Kade. Many thanks for joining us on Business Insights, Mr. Ajayi Kade.
Thank you for having me.
It is indeed our pleasure. Let's just dive straight into it. Tell us about the impact on this higher electricity tariff vis-a-vis the cost of productions for manufacturers.
Yes, the electricity is like the blood is to the body. You require it for all your operations, be it on the factory floor or in the offices. And that explains why, like you rightly mentioned, in the year 2022, manufacturers had to spend 144 billion naira to provide alternative source of electricity because the national grid was not offering sufficient supply of power. So what we have seen with this anticipated or imminent increase in electricity tariff is anxiety. A 40% increase in electricity tariff will be clearly unbearable for the sector. Having seen that we enjoy only between 6 to 12 hours of electricity, and also seeing that the cost of providing alternative energy has constituted a toll on manufacturing competitiveness, our profitability, and our capacity utilization. Manufacturers are now very anxious as to how the year will end, having seen that in the low disposable income of the average Nigerian, we have seen how the unification of the forex rate has meant that our cost of production will rise. Even though most of these policies of the new administration are positive and the thing to do, they had led to our re-strategizing and repositioning our operations in order to be able to weather the storm. What we are not expecting is this hike, particularly because it is not based on any assurance or any indication or any anticipation of improved services. It will appear that in all this conversation, what is being put on the table is just the hike and not how we are going to witness improved services.
Okay, that is actually a very sad tale, if you ask me. But let's talk more about the impact really on manufacturing vis-a-vis if we compare ourselves to the world. In your latest release, you noted that the unfavorable situation, that's the power issue, has positioned the country among the worst countries to do business. Tell us more about that, and where do we stand on that list, really?
Competitiveness is the key in all manufacturing efforts, because once a manufacturer produces, he is interested in selling, because you have no business manufacturing if only you are going to keep it on the shelf. Through export, how you stand in terms of price essentially will determine your competitiveness. So in the ease of doing business and in choosing where to do business around the world, what you look at is how favorable that economy is, how welcoming that economy is. Alhaji Aliko Dangote was credited to have said in Accra, that we were just last week, that he wouldn't go to invest in a country that makes life difficult for him. That's essentially what we have. And our ranking has placed us in the rock bottom of the pyramid, where you have nations that have not paid adequate attention to reducing the cost of doing business and ensuring that it makes a place a welcoming place for capital to flow. Some people have said that capital is very shy and is a coward. It will not go to a place where it will not be able to freely operate, where it will not be able to produce at competitive rates, and where it cannot predict what policies are going to govern the operating environment. That is the scenario that we have found ourselves, and we are saying that we should not compound it by
All right, you're still watching Business Insight on Plus TV Africa. We still have Segun Ajayi Kadu, Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. With the last release from MAN, that is, manufacturers are expecting the federal government and the regulator, that is NEC, to ensure improvement in electricity generation, transmission, and distribution, rather than increasing the tariff on the mere 4,000 megawatts. Okay, what do you think really can be done differently from the generation stage to eventual distribution?
Operation along the value chain. What we have always had is that we do not have so much problem with generation and transmission, that what we have is with distribution. At some other times, we have been informed about how inadequate our infrastructure has been to support the transmission. So government over the years has invested heavily in the first two stages, that's the generation and the transmission. Then we had again that in terms of distributing the power, that the DISCOs have lacked the capacity, probably I do not want to say the competence, but maybe the capacity to effectively distribute. At a time, we were able to generate 7,000 megawatts, but the DISCOs were only able to wheel 5,000. Now I believe we are down to 4,000. So efficiency in the value chain is key, but more importantly is the ones that you have been able to generate, the ones that you have been able to transmit, you should be able to distribute. There is a lot of investment that is required, especially between generation and transmission. And I believe that the government that plays heavily in that sector should be employed upon to allow flow of investment into that segment, such that we'll be able to generate enough. I mean, Nigeria, we are 200 million plus people, and we are generating only 7,000, we are distributing only 4,000. You put a place like South Africa, the population is not up to 50 million, but the Electricity Act is going to help us in that regard, because it's going to allow more players to come in. It's going to generate a lot of competition. It's going to bring innovation into even other sources of power. And it's going to ensure that if you are inefficient, you will see a rapid replacement. I believe this is what the value chain requires. Because if you have a monopoly or operation, you are not likely to witness the kind of progress that you will have made.
All right, let's just talk about the new act which you have mentioned in passing. And of course, you have said in previous releases that it is a welcome development. And my question right now is that, is it uhuru for the Nigerian power situation with this new act? And judging by the fact that power supply is very capital intensive, and looking at the economy of most states, do you really think that they can actually meet up with all of the demands now that power has been devolved, so to speak?
Well, if you are talking of the subnationals, that's the states. I think, let's look at the states, for instance. Many of them, you have huge population, and almost everybody in Nigeria requires power. So if the states are smart, and they should be, power, going into power, into playing in the power sector is going to give them a very huge opportunity to generate revenue internally, because they will be able to augment whatever they get from the federal government, which has continued to dwindle in view of the to engage in power generation and distribution as they've been empowered by the new law that everybody is applauding. So it will be a very good opportunity for them, apart from ensuring that they are able to generate a lot of economic activities that will generally bring in income in payee, and in terms of other fees and levies and all sorts of fees that they collect. It would, as a matter of fact, boost their economic development. It will boost even government operations, and it will allow for inflow of investment from all segments of the economy. So I believe that it is a huge opportunity for them. The only thing that they need to do is to be pragmatic and to focus on avoiding those challenges that we have seen that has plagued federal government's incursion into, federal government operation in that sector. It should not be a license to bring in people that are not competent. It should not be a license to bring in people that do not have capacity, but just because of political connections and advantages that they are able to derive. I mean, this is, power is capital intensive, like you said, so due diligence must be done to get people on board to support the states to do it. And it has also given opportunity for diverse investment in other sustainable means of generating power. Renewable energy is there. We have sun in abundance in most parts of the country. So there's a huge opportunity for investment in those areas.
I still want us to talk about the investment opportunities that you have mentioned, because one would say that it brings about a thing of the public-private participation in all of this, even as much as most states' economy are not really well. I want to understand really, maybe you can break it down for me, where the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria can play in terms of the value chain. You also mentioned renewable energy, maybe prepaid metering and all of that. Where is MAN playing in all of this?
Okay, so MAN as an organization has always been concerned with power supply to our members, because I've indicated that is between 28% and 40% of the cost structure of an average manufacturing industry. So you know that if we get it right in this area, we are likely to do well.
True.
So on our own, what we have done is to establish a special purpose vehicle that we call Manpower Development Company, which basically interfaces with power providers and make it available to our members in clusters and in various industrial zones. So for us, the new law will empower us to make rapid progress in this regard. It then means that we're able to partner with effective power producers in our various industrial clusters so that we are able to have captive power that we'll be able to deliver to our members. At the same time also, it's going to give us an opportunity for power sharing because we have industries that are big and they generate their own power, but they are not able to share it with people within their vicinity. So I believe this will be a very good opportunity for us. It also opens room for us to directly engage those who can supply power and agree with them on how we can do maybe something in the form of a bulk purchase or bulk supply to existing manufacturers. What I think is critical, where we are able to play very well in this value chain, is for us to be able to overcome the impediment that has continued to limit private generation of power. I think that is the major issue because for us, if we are able to get it right, it will tremendously increase our competitiveness. Right. So, and I think now there is a lot of conversation that is going on between our members and us as to how we can best maximize the opportunities that have been offered by the new law.
All right, we want to say a very big thank you to you, Mr. Segun Ajayi-Kadri, Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, for spending time to break down all of the effect of the new proposed tariff and, of course, the new Electricity Act and how it will impact on manufacturing labor and, Nigeria's economy. Business Insight will return to your screen again tomorrow. My name is Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for watching. See you again next time.
The Nigerian Medical Association says the country is now battling with its worst situation of brain drain, as no fewer than 10,000 Nigerian trained doctors are currently practicing in the United Kingdom. To add to this dilemma, Nigerians seem to have a trust issue with getting medical services.
Because we're talking about access to all spectra of the society, from low to middle to higher socioeconomic groups. And that we have put in place these kinds of standards where we are talking about one standard of care.
Today's prevailing economic climate, both in Nigeria and abroad, the idea that individuals can simply jet off abroad is becoming an increasingly unrealistic prospect. Never mind the millions of the 200 million Nigerians who never had that option in the first place. So all of that, plus what happened over COVID, has forced us to look inwards. And that's where the story of reversing medical tourism begins.
Many Nigerians have lost confidence in the country's health system because of the poor service delivery. Some, however, believe the challenge can be solved from top-bottom. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, may have walked in that direction. However, the Lagos State government says it is imperative to have a strategic initiative to make the city
with confidence, that if I receive my treatment in Lagos, I know I'm going to get international best practices in that particular discipline.
Interestingly, apart from lack of equipment and technical expertise, poor sanitation and disrespectful attitude of health workers and a perceived lack of confidentiality have been the sad narrative. This regardless, experts are confident that the tide is changing.
Asari Dokubo and the Nigerian army lock horns over allegation of oil theft. Tonight on Plus Politics, we discuss oil bunkering menace in Nigeria and possible solutions to them. This is Plus Politics. I am Messi Boko. The Nigerian army has reacted to the allegation by ex-Niger Delta militant leader Asari Dokubo that some cabals in the military are involved in oil theft in the region. Dokubo made the claims when he visited President Bola Tinubu in Abuja on Friday. The Director, Army Public Relations Officer Onyema Nwachukwu, reacted by saying that the Nigerian army has been vigorously engaged in the fight against illegal oil bunkering, oil thefts, illegal oil refining, and other sundry crimes in the region with positive results. These, he said, was evidence in the increase in daily oil production from the abysmal dwindling output in the past. Nwachukwu said the Nigerian army had zero tolerance for any compromise on the part of its troops and would not condone any act of economic sabotage. Well, joining us to discuss this is John Desmond, a development expert and public affairs analyst, who is also a member of the APC, and Fine Face Dunamini. He's the executive director, Youth and Environmental Advocacy Center, also a national facilitator project with the artisanal crude oil refiners for modular refineries in the Niger Delta region. And then Okunabon Katari is also here with us, a public affairs analyst, and Taiwo Olakpade, I hope I got that correctly, Olakpade, a broadcast journalist. Thank you so much, Olakpade, and gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you for having us on.
Good evening, Mercy. Good evening, Nigerians.
So,
thank you very much. Good evening.
All right, good evening, gentlemen. Once again, thank you for joining us. So let me go straight to Fine Face. I'd like to ask you what your thoughts are as regards the allegation by Asari Dokubo in this regards.
Thank you for having me, Messi, and good evening, Nigerians. To me, I don't think there is anything to bother about overthinking about what Asari Dokubo said. This is what I have also been saying over the years, not over the weeks, not over the months, not over the days. I have been saying this over the years. It's a simple thing. But what I noticed in this country is that it depends on who says what at what particular time. Not that what Asari Dokubo said is new or different. This is in Nigeria and the Gulf of Guinea. And we said the same thing, crude oil theft. And it's not every member of the Navy that is involved in crude oil theft. These are allegations that I think they need to work towards purging themselves of it. But that does not in any way mean that what Alhaji Asari Dokubo said is different from what you already know and what exists. They know, they are aware. It's not only the army, it's not only the Navy, it also includes the police, it also includes men of Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. It's an organized crime that security operatives are aiding and abetting in Nigeria. So there is nothing fundamentally, new from what Asari Dokubo said. It's what even the army, they already also know. Even those who are part of the, Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources, they are also part of this. It's an organized crime that they are carrying out. So there's nothing fundamentally wrong about what Asari Dokubo have said. So what they need to do is to look inwards and try to purge themselves of the allegation of them getting involved in crude oil theft.
You know, when you say it's an allegation because you don't have the facts to prove. Again, then, if you say that you have been saying this over time, do you have facts, a statement? Do you have documents, written or unwritten, audio whatsoever, to prove that the military is involved? Because it's a lot of accusation. I mean, it's a lot to take in when you say that the military. Let's not forget that we're saying that everybody. I mean, you were a thief until there's evidence. You're being proven by a court of competent jurisdiction. Yeah. So again, it's still an accusation until you have substance to back it. So, do you have substance? Are there any evidence? Do you have documents, audio recording, whatsoever? To say that the military has been involved in oil thefts in our country.
Now, let me say this. I have been working on this for over 12 years. Since 2011, I've been working on this. Remember, I also work, like you mentioned in your introduction, as the national facilitator of project with artisanal crude oil refiners for modular refineries in the Niger Delta. I work with youth who are involved in the entire process. Now, I'll give you 2 examples of where men of the security operatives have been allegedly, mentioned as getting involved in oil theft and oil theft in the Niger Delta. The immediate past Rivers State Governor, His Excellency Nyesom Ezeonwike, talked about the fact that a police officer in the Emoha local government area owned a dump. When that allegation was made, I joined the Emoha local government chairman, Dr. Chidi Lloyd, to visit the sites. And I have pictures and videos of the sites owned and operated by a GPO that was in Emoha. A particular officer was transferred from Rivers State. Just 2 months ago, we also got information, which you may have also heard. And my men also reported to me that some army personnel in Emoha local government area, precisely in Gumwepe community and the boundary with Rundele community, were involved in crude oil theft artisanal refining process, and they were disarmed by civilians. Their guns collected, their uniform taken, and they were thrown naked. The information is out there, and when that incident happened, I was the one that raised it to the public for the first time. If you Google on the internet, you are going to see information from me, how the army held Gumwepe's community hostage as a result of their involvement in artisanal refining and crude oil theft process, and them being disarmed and their uniform taken. It's a public knowledge. We have a lot of facts about this. They are all part of this, so they should look for a way of stopping this, since the government is now trying to look at a way of, because we are suffering, Niger Delta people, our environment is being polluted, and we are suffering so much as a result of their activities.
All right, then, Opunabo Kataria, I'm sure that you have been listening to this, but then again, maybe we need to just go back memory lane. There are several reports that are valid. A report in 2013 where Nigeria was losing over 300,000 barrels of crude oil per day to oil theft, pipeline vandalism, and you want to go on with the list. And this is despite the fact that the federal government had put efforts to curtail the diversion by increasing security spending in recent times. So again, I'm asking, does this not validate the accusation of Asari Dokubo that the military is really involved in oil bunkering, thefts, and what have you?
Well, that the military's involvement in oil bunkering, illegal bunkering, is not in doubt. I know that the military immediately was able to defend itself, but that does not in any way appreciate the fact that it is fully, I repeat, fully involved in bunkering, illegal bunkering in the Niger Delta. Now you ask yourself a rhetorical question: who is in charge of the protection of the seaway? The Navy. You remember just was it last year, some 2 years ago, when a ship laden with oil left the country only for another country to seize the ship, arrest the people, and send back to the ship. What was the Navy doing? What was the Navy doing? I mean, it is well known that the military men are fully involved with oil bunkering. It is well known. So it is just a face-saving measure when they come out to say, you know, a lot of people say you don't have proof. There are certain things that you don't expect someone to do, especially on air. You know, I might catch you sleeping with somebody else's husband. You know that you're guilty. I know. One or two other persons know. But because it is not on videotape, you say, where is the proof? You can rely and pass your judgment on circumstantial evidence. Circumstances, yes, evidence. Not necessary. Actually, only in murder cases you can even talk of proving beyond reasonable doubt. Only in murder cases. The rest, you glean from the circumstances. So this issue of where is the proof? Because you're actually finding faith. Where is the proof? Where is the this? Where is the that?
most of them going into bunkering remove their tag names. That's what they do. And most times, some of them might not even be uniform. When Asari was in the trenches, I went to see him countless times. There was nowhere he was that I did not go to, not once, not twice. And I saw what was going on. Even recently, I went to Auda, let me mention the place. In Auda, I saw what was going on. And the military men were more or less protecting them. I'm talking about that. I'm talking about something that happened just maybe about 3 months ago. Even in Auda. So they cannot deny the fact. I mean, I saw 3 months ago, the military, they were doing illegal bunkering in the place and the military was protecting them. They were in uniform. In uniform. So you cannot come and tell me, try to deny the fact that they noticed, but they're very fully involved in all that. How do you, and when I mean from top to bottom, from top to bottom. You heard what Private said about the governor of Rivers. He said it to their face. It was a courtesy call. They paid him a courtesy call, and he told them directly that the bunkering situation is being festered by the involvement of your men. They could not deny it. He said, and if you argue, I'll publish it. I'll see it. Of course, he had security reports. He had all the reports. Even the civil defense guy, what happened? The policeman, what happened? Nobody told us that they were disciplined. Nobody told us that some punitive measures were taken against them. Nobody. Worst case scenario, they transfer you out of the state. We are talking of something, things that have happened. We talked of this because of the suit problem that we had in the states. You can't deny the fact that the military is illegal. It wouldn't have been possible without the military. It wouldn't have.
So the question then would be how? You know, everybody is saying that the military is involved. How is the military involved then? The military has also put out a disclaimer to saying they're not involved. So how?
They tell you to go there and they tell you to go there and arrest you, go there and protect and get your court. What is the how again? What's the how? The boys are doing the bunkering, the military manager allow them to go ahead with the Nefarious Act, and at the end of the day, they are being paid for that. It's as simple as that. We even also talked of the policeman who had his own. Now people are now working for him. They allow you to carry on with these activities, these illegal activities. At the end of the day, you pay. That's how they're involved. Not that they are going to open the pipe, break the pipes or open the pipe well. So no, they're involved, like the captain, and that matter is swept under the carpet. Some were involved, but they even tell you, as they kidnap, the military manager even going to pay the ransom. They tell you, give me this. Don't worry, by the time you get that, the people understand. You see another checkpoint, they are due to them. It was said openly, it was on air. These things were said on air. The military did not come to, and they asked them why. They said, because we are not well remunerated for the job we are doing. If we die today, our family suffers. So this is how we make our money. It was on air. It was on air. On traditional media. We are not talking about, if you talk of Facebook and so, you say, how do you ascertain the veracity or apocryphalness of the claim? But this is on air, traditional media.
Okay.
So that's how they make their money. That's how they're involved. You are meant to arrest rather than arrest, you aid and abet. That's your level of complicity. That's your level of involvement.
Opunabon Katara, let's quickly connect with John Desmond this evening and share his thoughts as well on this issue. John, thank you so much for joining us. Desmond, can you hear me? All right, then unfortunately we haven't, or we do not have a connection with Desmond or John. Hopefully we're able to connect with him. Opunabon Katara.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you now.
So just before we get to Taiwo, again, the consent, because you already know how the system works and with the law, if you say there's an allegation, can you literally categorize all of that? And then again, I'd say, you've also said, yeah, truly the military is involved. But how can you say the military is involved? Do you have evidence? Let's even say that you're called upon to put out this evidence. Do you have evidence to present that the military is involved in all theft that's been going on for a very long time in our country?
Evidentiary proof. Depending on that is the day. I find it rightly so.
Do you have an evidence to prove?
That's what I said. That is the day, because it is not there. Like I told you, that did not snap. But even if you go today, unless they must have sent them away. If you go today, it's something that happened. It's ongoing. I just use the issue of the case of what's that thing called? Infidelity as an example. You say you don't have an evidence. I saw you you're naked in a battle with a man.
So did you take a picture of it? Do you have a video recording of it?
Because I come out to tell you, do you have an evidence? Why will I take a picture? Are they not aware? Why will I take a picture?
But I mean, this can just be mere statements. Again,
I just answered your question. Let me substantiate. The IG will tell the policeman on the road, no checkpoint. Don't take it. Don't do this. Don't do that. The policeman will go ahead and tomorrow you have to. Is the IG blind? Is the CP blind? Don't they fly that road? Then you can't have to. Where's evidence? Let me tell you, there are certain things. It's like giving a judge a bribe. You say the judges are corrupt. You already know that because you've also given him some of them bribes. But tomorrow now they're going to come and prove it. I am not Senator Bukasawa that will come and mention the name of it. I am not. But it is for them to use the internal mechanism to fish these persons out and punish them. But I will not, because I also gave the right. So why will I come and say this judge is corrupt? But when I say it's corrupt, I know what I'm talking about. So I will never tell you on air that I gave the right. So most times when these allegations come, it's because you probably partook in them, but you cannot mention their names. The only thing is, let the security personnel go and investigate these things. Every information you get in life, even if you're not going to use it as a sword, use it as a shield. Don't dismiss it. Investigate it. The man who is also dismissed is aware. He's quite cognizant of the fact. He sees of the fact. It's a first-saving measure. Who doesn't know in this country that the military is involved? Who doesn't know? You can't. There is nobody that come and say, if the military is not involved, then the military is negligent. Because you are giving billions of naira to protect our land, sea, and airways. So if you don't know what is going on there, then you are negligent. And what are you doing? Whichever way you look at it, the military cannot extricate itself from any blame. Whichever way you look at it. This bunkering thing is going on daily. And if you say you're not aware, then what are you doing with the money that you are being paid?
Let's go back to Fine now. Open a bank, let's go back.
It's not hidden. The thing is not hidden.
Everybody
is aware.
Open about. Let's go back. Let's go back to your colleague who's also part of this conversation. Fine Face, right there. I mean, you know how it is. You are an accusation is still an accusation because you can't literally say someone is a criminal until they have been proven. I've literally said that the military. You agreed to the thoughts of Asari Dokubo that the
and I don't think the allegation, whether or not the military, the navy, the police, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps is involved in oil theft is new. That is no news. That is, if you.
And one of the things that I cited, that I think that you mentioned, is that you should cite an instance of oil theft where the military is involved or the army, and that's what we're saying. Because at the end of the day,
I have mentioned two from the River State Governor.
Of course.
I have mentioned another one from. Emoha local government area, Rumoikpe to be precise, which I released a statement about, where they went to collect their guns back after the boys disarmed them in the process of getting involved in oil theft. And Mercy, let me tell you, anything that has to do with oil thefts and artisanal refineries is an organized crime. It's not a one-man business.
Okay, but we need
for them to move it from point A to point B without security, you can't do it. You will see police, military checkpoint, all of them on the road collecting money, stopping oil theft. They know the routes and where they stay. This is not news. what we should be talking about is how this statement that has been made by Asari Dokubo now, that we have been making, that have not been taken seriously, this allegation, how are they working on it to making sure that it stops? These people pay so much bribe to people within their system to be posted to the Niger Delta to get involved in this. They make phone calls to the boys, come and start operation. And they commence operation. I know some communities where houseboats with the security, they are on the river. And they have called the boys to come and start operation, that they are lacking money. This is a common thing that we all know in the Niger Delta. We are more concerned about this because of the environmental impact of the oil theft that is going on. Loss of resources to local communities that depend on the water bodies that is being used to perpetrate this of the country from fossil fuel to clean and renewable energy. So we need the oil to pump for some time to be able to have resources to transition the country. But if the current level of oil theft is going on, then we are not making any progress within the country. But Nigeria is the only country where you have this kind of thing happening, and it is a shame.
That's a good concern, fine case, but let us be honest with ourselves. In as much as we are going to condemn this illegal bunkering, that is not the problem you have. The problem is your leadership. Because if the leadership, if you have a prudent leadership, definitely even with the nature we have, we would have gone beyond where we are in terms of development. It has to do with leadership. So while I agree with you, because your statement, anybody who listens to you will think you're trying to extricate the leadership from the problems we are having. The leadership is fully involved. Yeah. Excuse me, but even the Minister for Petroleum, former Minister for Petroleum, Buhari is involved. Because you said it's a cartel. No, I want us to be honest. Even Tinip, you said it's a cartel. That's why you're removing subsidy. Yeah. From 2015 to when you left office, cartel. You are going to name and shame them. You did not name and shame them. You are the petroleum minister. So you are wrong. You are equally guilty.
Well, Desmond, are you still with us? Opunabo Nkatara, we need to understand we have orders. We still have Desmond with us. Desmond, are you here?
Okay, sorry. In fact, I'm even having the program.
Desmond, can you hear me?
Okay.
Desmond, please, if you can hear me, say something. Well, we're still back with Plus Politics tonight, and we have a gentleman with us. We have Opunabo Nkatara, we also have Femi also on the line. I hope I'm not mistaken. And then we have Taiwo with us tonight. But let me go to Taiwo because we haven't spoken with Taiwo in a bit. Taiwo, recently, we're getting close to the solution. I remember that the National Security Advisor, Babagana Mugono, said that Nigeria may lose $23 billion in 2023 if crude oil theft is unchecked. My question now is, what exactly can we do to curtail all of this?
Thank you very much. Let me start with the visit by Alhaji Mujahideen Asari Dokubo to Mr. President on Friday. At that visit, he said to Mr. President that he came to pay homage. And when he was done with Mr. President, he addressed journalists, the state correspondents. And that was where he gave that revelation that 99% of the oil theft in the country are perpetrated by the military. And since then, it has continued to generate various reactions. And coming back to what the National Security Advisor, General Babangana Moguno said. Of course, we know we have been battling with the menace of oil theft for so many years, and for that reason, the country has continued to lose huge sum of revenue that will have been used for developmental purposes in the country. And I also recall that the Nigerian Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative in April this year said that between 2009 and year 2020, that Nigeria lost over 600 million barrels of oil to oil theft. And if you look, if you put that into naira figure, that's over several trillions of naira between that period that the Nigerian Extractive Transparency Initiative talked about. So there's every need for the current administration led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to do the needful in ensuring that we curb this menace, because whether we like it or not, we are challenged by infrastructural decay. And these are some of the money that if it actually comes into the country's coffers, we can use for developmental purposes, we can use to develop the health sector, we can use to develop the education sector, we can use to also fund our military to fight insurgency, kidnapping, and banditry and the like that the country is being challenged by. So the president, like I said, deserves every other support. Every other major stakeholder must come around and give necessary advice. And particularly when it comes to oil theft, you and I can never be part of it because we don't have the capacity, we don't have the logistics to do so. So it's like when you say the crown of the king is got missing in the palace, do you ask ordinary subjects of that kingdom? No, you ask the palace guards. No, you ask the security men within the palace. And that's the reason why you cannot wish away the allegations from Alhaji Asari Dokubo that 99% of the oil theft in the country are perpetrated by the military. And quickly, there were reactions from the military, particularly the Navy. The spokesman for the Navy, Commodore Adedotu Ayovon, was quick to react and said that Asari Dokubo made that allegation so that he can get whether support or request from Mr. President. And the military, on the other hand, also challenged Alhaji Asari Dokubo to name names that he who comes to equity must also come with clean hands. You can't just give a bogus, ambiguous allegation. That you must be able to also pinpoint those who are also perpetrating this, because you also have a background as regards monitoring our oil facilities. We know Asari Dokubo doing that. We also know government Tompolo, particularly during the regime of our former President Goodluck Jonathan. These are people who are also major stakeholders in the Niger Delta region that you can never wish away. So the president, it is never too late, and it's better to be late than never. We know what has happened in the past. Moving forward now, every measures must be taken to ensure that we curb these illegal activities that we can say tantamount to some cartels. We can tantamount to some cartels that are denying the country the huge resources from this oil theft. And if I could recommend, we know that our military, particularly the Navy, they patrol our waterways every other time. So why are we still talking about oil theft when we know we have our Navy on the standby every other minute, 24-hour surveillance on the waterways? So who are the people behind this oil theft, if not the same people that Asari Dokubo has accused? And again, why can't you also deploy drones? With drones, you can sit back in your office and go on our waterways. So these are some of the measures that I think the country can deploy to curb this menace of illegal oil theft, oil bunkering, particularly in the Niger Delta region?
Well, Taiwo, before we move to Opunabon Katari and then Fine Face on the other side, again, you know, very brilliant. And I think that you have raised valid questions that we have been asking. If the government has improved spending over time in terms of security, and then again, we cannot literally boast that oil theft has reduced. You also have several operations that have been put out. Then what exactly are we dealing with? But if you say that then we begin to use drones, these drones are not, you know, operated by themselves. Of course, we understand that there's AI at the system, in the system right now, where you have artificial intelligence being used, but that's really not the case. So if you're saying that we're deploying drones and all of that, do you think that that's enough? Because you still have a system where the drones themselves are not operated by themselves. They're being operated by humans and people. So again, what exactly are we dealing with? But I move away to Opunabon Katari and Fine Face. So I'll start off with Opunabon Katari. There's been an operation that was flagged off in April, that was in 2022. And then, of course, you have it saying stop the thief at the One River State jetty, okay? So if this operation has been ongoing, exactly. So if you had operations where government has launched to say we need to stop activities, why exactly are we still talking about oil theft? And do you then think that it makes sense that Asari Dokubo would be alleging that the military is involved in...
Yes, indeed. But don't worry, let's pass it. Let them debate. The truth about it, well, let me quickly respond to what I think it's Taiwo said, my brother Taiwo said, when they talked of drones. Taiwo, I think you're forgetting quickly that was how we had the beavers. What happened? Like Messi rightly said, these things are controlled by men. The drones might have problems. There might be malfunction when it's time to operate. And when it's not time to operate, they will work perfectly. So let us leave the drones because they are controlled by men and not spirits or God in heaven. On the issue of operation, whatever they call it, you know, we are used to beautiful nomenclatures and so on. Just like our laws, we don't have problem with the law. We have problems with implementation of the law. They have all those things in place. Most times to justify the amounts they've collected. Who is going to operate them? I tell you of a story. 2004 or so. He's late now, so I can mention his name. In 2004, there was this militants clashed on Hospital Road. It was more or less like the theater. Hospital Road was like more or less a theater where they come from here. He immediately called his boys. And do you know what they said to him? They said, "Okay, no fuel, APC. That is this APC armored personnel carrier. No fuel." Then he said, "Okay, let's go and buy fuel." So, okay, even the fire set we get from all kinds of excuses. And at the end of the day, when I saw him in the evening, I'm cutting a long story, he said, this was what happened. But eventually somebody came and told him that these boys were empowered by the government. They will not go and die for nothing. So in essence, what am I trying to tell you? Most of these characters, because they benefit tremendously, the point I'm making is they all have interest. Because they benefit tremendously from this thing. They will even tell you, if at all you have a sincere man controlling from the control room. Those are the people that will even come to tell you, by so time, this man will be in the control room. So be careful, you just hold on. When he's out of the control room, I'll tell you to move it. There's high-level complicity. So it's not all about operation this, operation that, and operation this. It's all rubbish. It has to do with sincerity and commitment on the part of the officers. Otherwise, you are talking of the bunkering. The bunkering, you are not talking of bunkering. Wherever you have bunkering, you ought to have the civil defense and the naval officers. Where are they? They want batteries. You don't need to launch. So it's all about commitment. It's all about service. It's all about sincerity. It is not how many things you launch. It is not Operation Tiger, Operation Scorpion, Operation this. Then when you do that, they now buy new cars for them, pump money in. The commander is eating like what Buratai and Co were doing. And after this, the former NSA came on air to say, look, the money is released. There is nothing on ground to justify that. That's the former NSA. Their successors said the same thing. Rather, they were rewarded with ambassadorial in Nigeria. So it's not about the launch. This launching is another way. It's like a gravy train, another way to raise money. Okay. And once those monies are raised, you see them parade. The victims are ordinary citizens on the road. You see an army man, what is his business? He's beating up a civilian on the road. What's his business? That's what you see. That is where their power runs. They will not even go after the Boko Haram. They will be beating up civilians on the road. So it's not, it has to be, and it has to come from the top. What I expect is to say, well, Asari Dokubo, Melo, I call him Melo, I still call him Melo, because that is now for the problem. And I still call him Melo. It's actually my
Open about. Let's quickly share the thoughts of Fine Face because we're out of time.
Is to say, look, this is the allegation. Call the service. Okay, you have dismissed them. They want to retire. So you are acting was, I want this to stop. When the president, if Mr. President is sincere, not the former lame job president I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Buhari, who was a disgrace. If the president is sincere, this thing will stop to, even if it doesn't stop, it will reduce to.
Openabong Kataria, we are out of time, but we need to connect with Fine Face for his thoughts now. Fine Face,
okay,
do we still have you? Fine Face, do we still have it? We have, of course, the statement that was made by the National Security Advisor, Babagana Mukono, saying that Nigeria may probably lose $23 billion in 2023 if oil or crude oil theft is unchecked. I ask you, what ways do you think this present government administration led by Tinubu can come in against the fight of oil theft in Nigeria?
Are you asking me?
Yes, please.
Am I doing one or not?
Yes, please. Okay, Taiwo is there, but I think he spoke to that briefly. Then I think it's your turn.
Okay, fine. It's simple. Like I said, that is not the partnership. It has to do with the president. If, for example, now you give an order, a marching order, not the order that Buhari gave to the general of police to go to relocate to Borno that did not go and said they were going to investigate until the man died. That's not the kind of order. If he gives an order and uses one as a sacrificial lamb that will disobey that order. See, the problem is most times the orders that disobey flouted with impunity. And when these things are done and one is not going, the other forget about people know it themselves, the man will keep power. But when the yuan is being used as an example as the scapegoat, orders will fall in line. All you need to do is give a marching order to the police and the civil defense. So say, I want this thing reduced to the barest minimum, if not eliminated. I tell you, there will be casualties. 1 or 2 persons will die, no doubt about that. But it will reduce. Definitely not eliminated, but it will reduce.
Okay.
But when you have this laissez-faire attitude, it is only what they give to you on paper you read. Nothing will happen. Nothing will go on because of.
All right, gentlemen, we have to let it go at this point in time for the want of time. Thank you so much for being part of the show. Openabong Kataria, thank you so much. Okay. Well, I'm sure that you gentlemen.
Na 500 naira they collect am. If you no talk, dem go beat you. Na 2,500 they pay.
Increase the reach of your events. Send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
This is the basis of my dual lineage of an Ondo man and Egba man. My late father, Prophet Olujimi Timothy Fashui, resident in Ibadan, retired as a higher executive officer at the then Nigerian Cocoa Board, Cocoa House, while my late mother, a trader, Oluyemisi Fashui, Mr. Adekunle Ladende Esquire, who was then an adult on strict moral standards. I will share some of my learning experiences with them in the course of my story. I started my primary education at Leos High School for secondary, Ogun State Polytechnic for A-levels, and University of Ilorin, where I obtained B.A. Hans degree in performing arts. Growing up was memorable and indeed indelible. From early days at Old Bodija, Ibadan, where streets were paved, neat clean gutters and drainage systems, security guaranteed, even with low fence. And in those days of strong values, our normal day usually will begin with bell ringing by daddy, my uncle, for prayers. Songs from hymnal books, psalms from Bible were sung and recited off heart. Till date, I can still read Psalm 23, 121, 122, 103, 91, and some others from memory. Then, everyone had a car to do before school. Everyone was trained to write with Ami, the foundational phonemic notations of Yoruba language, which is Doremi, and speak in Yoruba language. Proverbs, idioms, witty sayings, storytellings. Alo, alo. Oruku tindi tindi tindi, oruku tindi tindi tindi, oruku bimo, gbogbo ọmọ ẹ̀ ló yàjẹ́ o, kí ni o? Train their children strictly on English language and eroding our cultures and traditions, all in the name of westernization. This is a tickling time bomb. Values inculcated in us were good character, good name, discipline, integrity, truthfulness, cleanliness, hard work, dedication, loyalty, God-fearing, sound education, and responsibility. I remember a day I was running late and dressed up for school without doing my morning course. As I prostrated fully, saying, Udabosa, meaning bye-bye, sir, Daddy asked, have you done your course in Yoruba? I couldn't answer in the affirmative. He then asked that I should go and remove my uniform and perform my duties, and that when I get punished for lateness in school, next time I'll learn to wake up earlier and do my course. This taught me how to be responsible and time conscious. I remember another incident of my goose. My uncle requested back and instructed me in Yoruba, Lọ mú àdá wá kó wá gé ìtàkùn tó fẹsẹ̀ kọ lẹ́ẹ̀kan, meaning go and bring a cutlass, machete, and cut the tree roots you kicked then. I turned to leave, only to realize my goof of not apologizing when I kicked his foot in error. I quickly prostrated and said, sorry, sir. That was courtesy lesson 101. I never forgot the incidents and lessons, using an idiom for corrections. Wow. I remember the good old telephone always under lock and key. I won't disclose some naughty pranks we played to dial numbers without opening the padlock. God help you, shovels, plumb, ladder, plumbing machine, a toolbox for screwdrivers and paint brushes. We actually painted part of the house once. He was a hands-on man, a life skill I possess till date. Memories. What of dress code? Everyone must tuck in their shirts going out, neat and ironed, no collar flying. Hair must be cropped neat at Maridoti Babas, Makola, that has helped me in my passion, drive, and calling into integrated development communication initiatives, where we use arts as a tool for advocacy, hard work, dedication, humility, good character, and high moral standards. It is time for us to call the emerging generation to borrow a leaf from our past, when there was dignity in labor, honesty, perseverance, and belief in God, who is the author and finisher of our faith. Let's shun tribal sentiments and embrace religious tolerance. Hunger does not discriminate. You see, are we leaving behind for our children? They deserve a future that is greater than our past. We owe our country great again.
dangerous body would have been manure for the motherland. Listen to the words of a corpse.
In advertising for over 20 years. I do storytelling as well. I do narrative. I've done films, TV series, etc. I taught myself to draw, and that meant 4 hours of sketching every day, minutely competent, where people will say, this doesn't suck. You actually have to practice.
For God's sake, Emeka, we don't even have enough guns or food. What were you thinking?
If you and Uzogu had not unleashed your unique brand of madness last January, we wouldn't be swimming in Biafran blood.
It was a revolution!
I was with one of my uncles, and he got me a job in, then it was Vanguard newspapers in Apapa. And I got to meet all my heroes because in those days, I knew every cartoonist of every Nigerian publication by name because I would always look for the signature. Advertising was obviously the way to go. English then, if you're doing English, you're either going to be a teacher or something. I was like, no, this is a cool industry. This industry is really cool. It's really being paid to be creative. I was sent around the agency to learn every aspect of advertising, the request. There are many highlights. I've won awards for films I've made, TV series I've done. But let me just jump forward. The most recent thing I've done I'm extremely proud of is being one of the 3 directors on MTV Sugar, Niger. Then you have to learn. So when I came into production, I was always asking questions. So I was on the quest to know why this visual image was better than this visual image. And that got me into studying and learning about production. It helps to be always focused on what will make you win. There's a very healthy sense of motivating yourself to always get things right. Make sure your work is up to standard. It resembles anything else across any other platform across the world. The second thing is it must have your identity. It must have your strong cultural identity.
Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Chinelo Anene, and in the studio today we have Jenny, Lexi, aka Alero, and we also have Isi. Isi is going to be joining us virtually today.
I'm actually done with today. I'm actually done. I had back-to-back meetings. You know how you're done with 30 minutes meeting and you're entering another one and you're entering. So I think I had in total probably maybe 7 to 8 meetings.
How do you do this?
I don't know.
See, that's one thing I don't miss at all about doing a 9 to 5. You see, that's back to back to back. Oh my God.
And mine is worse because I have to do meetings back to back. I mean, I do strategic partnerships. So that's what I do as my job.
Yeah.
And then I still have to be here.
I
still have to be. I had a shoot early today. I had to be there. It's crazy juggling all of these things.
Yeah.
But the reward is actually quite good. I'm excited. I'm always excited, even after the stress.
Let God reward me with more money, because this stress.
It's got to be worth it.
It has to.
No, the back-to-back meetings. I think it was towards the end, before I could jump into another meeting. I was talking to one of my product managers.
Hey, hi Isi, how you? Okay, we can't seem to hear Isi. Okay,
I hope the rain isn't affecting the rain today.
The rain, right? The network has
even
even been really bad today,
awful.
actually.
So that might be.
Okay, Isi, we'll come back to you. We can hear you now. All right. So here's what we found as today's quotes: the individual investor should act consistently as an investor and not as a speculator. The individual investor should act consistently as an investor and not as a speculator. And this is by Ben Gray, tomorrow. So it's always advisable and wise to have something to always come back. So Larry, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say that I don't want to say shamelessly, because I remember the first time I spoke to a financial advisor, and the person said there's no time that is late to actually start getting that financial knowledge.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that experience for somebody like, sit down, let me teach you, how to invest and all. I had to learn the hard way. And having an opportunity to have this type of conversations is pretty important. So
Yeah.
I'm super excited to be here because I have plenty of questions. As a newbie in investment.
Right?
Yes.
And the beautiful thing is that we're not even talking about regular or traditional investment today. So I can't wait for us to get into the nitty-gritty. Anyway, investment is the giving up of today's consumption for tomorrow's benefits, and it usually takes the form of an income flow or capital gain. Most of the time when people have extra money, they are faced with the challenge of what to invest. Today we'll be discussing exploring alternative investment opportunities in Nigeria with Muyiwa Oluporoku. But first, let's take a break to see what we found in the news.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host.
You are still watching Wave. World Liver Day is observed on April 19 in order to raise awareness about liver-related diseases. The liver is one of the most complex organs in the human body, and it plays a pivotal role in our body's immunity, digestion, and metabolism. Plus, it also carries out the filtration of toxins, stores vitamins and minerals, and produces bile, among other functions. So you can overemphasize the importance of liver. My friend's mom actually died because she had a liver. And it's not like she used to drink alcohol or anything. You know, they say if you drink a lot of alcohol, she had an enlarged liver or something. I remember her tummy was just, we're really young, her tummy was just growing bigger, and then that was it.
Things that could cause it. I think there was a recent, you know, Aproko Doctor. You know, he always like puts out educational videos. So I think the most recent one, yesterday or 2 days ago, he said that you people that you are busy buying detox tea, you are busy doing that there, you can always use them to go get your frequent checkup. But it's really important.
101 million naira in romance scam. So this German man met this 21 years old Nigerian woman on Instagram, and they got talking. So as conversation kept on, progressing, she decided that they both decided that it was time to meet, but she couldn't go abroad to meet him. She has been trying to get him to come to Nigeria, and as time went on, I think the room for them, so that when he comes to meet her people, they can get married, and there will also be an apartment or a house where they could live in, and yeah.
What?
She gave him one of her Fidelity Bank accounts, and which was funded with that. But I think as time went on, he was able to find out that she was actually trying to dupe him, and she has a spa. I don't want to call the name of the spa, but I'm sure you can just go to Vanguard's website to get that information.
At 21.
21.
Wait, hold on. What this story? When I saw the headline, I didn't read the real story, right? I thought maybe all these Yahoo boys.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
No.
What?
She was the one. She did it herself.
Sister girl.
She did it herself. I mean, I'm very surprised and shocked that things like this still happen, where you're having a full-blown relationship with somebody that you've actually not really met. Like so I think it seems very legit. She has family members, so why not? And I mean, that was why he probably was able to trust her enough to be able to send her that amount of money. But then that's very weird.
That's horrible.
That's sad.
And sadly, we have a +1 in the demon and the heartbreak guys. Because this guy, we know. Well, my own news is kind of similar. So there's a POS operator in Kwara State, Ilorin, who his account was erroneously funded with 280 million naira. And my guy went on a shopping spree.
Hey.
He actually spent the money lavishly, and when they eventually saw him, he's now in jail. He's been apprehended. because he was really spending that money. Because for me, I'm like, if somebody transfers money to your account erroneously, how? How do you spend it? It's not even 5 million or 10 million.
200 and something
280 million naira.
That's
And the comment section on this news was really funny because people were just saying, "Oh, you're not smart. Why you not go Cotonou?" What first of all,
You has to actually confirm those details. So this
like it's raining disappointments today because even my own story is about a disappointment too. So a US-based Nigerian woman returned home with the hope of meeting a 2-story building project she had asked her brother to oversee. However, she met an uncompleted building in a waterlogged area, and she said she had sent home a lot of money for them to carry on with that project, only for her to come back and meet uncompleted building in a swamp. Now she's not even sure if what she even saw is actually her building because now it has now turned to story. She has asked Obina. So Obina is the person that she put in charge that she was sending money back home to. And she said what's even more painful for her is the fact that she actually gave the guy
extra money
just, for his inconveniences, in quotes. And pretty sad, pretty sad.
I can imagine how painful this
is. That the building behind her?
Yeah, that's the building behind her.
I think this is
what's she trying to build?
Is this another person? Because there was another lady last week or so that complained.
This is very recent.
Wow, so it's like this is really 100 million.
Yeah.
I don't know who a bricklayer is.
Even
I don't know an
where.
architect. I don't know anything.
Yes.
These people are going to create from start to finish for you, and all you need to just do is
that's a
drop
bright
your money.
idea.
Do you get? Because this kind of thing, this is their
It
target
happens.
market.
It's been happening since I was a child.
Yeah.
I remember my father's friends used to complain about things like that.
Yeah.
That they sent money home and then they came
Family
back. That you don't
members
see the house, or they squandered the money
But
or
for me, I
something.
feel like how wicked can you actually be?
People are heartless, very
And
heartless.
if you check the money
for over 40 years.
Wow.
She has worked different jobs.
A collusion, basically, at IFACO. And it was so bad because there was a fatal incident. The driver actually died on the spot. And people are so angry right now. Immediately the hoodlums around actually just descended on the what's it called, the bus, the BRT bus, and burnt it immediately. And this caused the reactive interaction basically between the individuals who were affected, the victims who were affected, because we also had individuals who were burnt, who were injured in the accident. And hoodlums, like I stated earlier, hoodlums actually burnt the bus because somebody died in the accident. So that must have been the reason why there was a collusion, and it caused the accident. However, that there was a recent incident on the train. So I think that there is a need for us to also look at it from the perspective that Lagos State has a lot to do with training the bus drivers who are actually plying these roads. There should be an avenue for them to test how they're recruited, look at how they are. So I think it is about time that the Lagos State government actually takes this by the horn and puts the individuals who are actually plying the road and the drivers who are actually plying the road and carrying people in their buses to ask them questions about how they're actually doing their job.
I think that's what it just boils down to, training. Nigeria is the only country where you can get up and just do whatever it is without proper training. But this is a conversation for another day. Okay, let's come to it. That's what we're talking about. Staying with us. Alternative investments is a label for disparate group of investments that are distinguished from common or that they are relatively recent additions to the investment universe. Alternative investments include such assets as real estate and commodities, which are arguably two of the oldest types of investments. Alternative investments also include non-traditional approaches to investing within special vehicles such as private equity funds and hedge funds. These funds may give the manager flexibility to use derivatives and leverage to make investments in liquid assets and to take short positions. Today, we'll be exploring alternative investment opportunities in Nigeria. Please let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation, send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 08180384663. You could also tweet at us at WayShowAfrica1 with the hashtag WayShow. The beautiful part about tonight is that we're not just talking off the top of our heads. We have a guest, like I said, who is an expert on the subject matter in the studio with us today. But then, ladies, let me hear from you first. Please, what do you know about investment?
Because I had already shamelessly
admitted
said I'm a rookie in investment. So
I think I've just been winging it, to be honest, because I don't like to keep money in the bank because it's not doing investments. And I've done a couple of investments, some of them good investments, some of them weren't so good. But I know currently I'm currently investing in stocks. I have I'll be the only person.
I think I'm in the same boat. So I was actually I don't even because the person that actually put me on it was very credible, and I know he had like turnover from it and all of that. So when he told me, I'm like, okay, great, let's do this. And to be honest, I actually got some returns from it. But you know how these things work now. It got to a point, I'm like, okay, now give me back my capital. Until today, do you know the funny thing is we're still getting emails to say that, oh, sorry guys, we're still working on. And I'm like, are you guys joking? It's almost 2 years now.
Wow.
Like, let's just move on.
That same thing happened to me, and in fact, to me and my sister. One of my uncles, my mom's brothers, came back from, the abroad. Where can I invest? Can you go? I say, first of all, I'm not the right person. Unfortunately for him, the investment I was doing at the time is similar to what you're talking about, and he put his money today. 2 days later, the thing scattered.
Oh!
I had to pay him back.
Wow!
Yeah, somehow, those guilt trip.
Yeah,
but I had to pay him back because he came because of me. So I know a lot of people need this knowledge, and I'm one of them.
Isi, do you know anything about investments in Nigeria? Or even globally?
I have a vague idea about investment in Nigeria. I have a lot of interest in probably what must have happened to to you, Alero. So I believe in Ponzi schemes. When you come with that, I don't listen to it. But however, I think that yes, this is something that we all need. And my first question is really going to be on how to talk about it from the tech point of view, basically.
Okay, so Muyiwa Olowoporoko is the head partnerships, alliances, and events at Art Splits, an innovative platform with for leading official airline amongst many others. Thank you for joining us in the studio live today, Mr. Muyiwa.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Welcome. You're very welcome, and we have a lot of questions to ask you. So we hope that you're.
And I'm excited that I'm excited that I'm the one sitting closest to him. So, welcome.
Yeah. Okay. So first things first, let's go into the discussion. Can you just walk us through what investment is like in Nigeria?
Well, you had rightly summarized, the entire landscape, investment landscape in Nigeria. So when you talk about investment in Nigeria, what comes to your mind is stocks, bonds, derivatives and stuff. And then until recently, when people are now already IPing, real estate, and then and I also talked about agriculture and stuff. So people have actually, that's been the way the landscape had been, and we've also seen that some of these financial instruments over time had failed in terms of what's called global meltdown. Susceptible to all those kind of economic forces and stuff that will affect. So RTC is actually globally same it is in Nigeria, because some of these financial instruments, talk about bonds and stocks and stuff, usually would fail. But in terms of stuff like that, so there's been the market forces already determine how these things go, and many people would not understand the fact that some of these events are actually long term, mid term to long term. Many people in Nigeria, which also makes Ponzi scheme to actually affect Nigerians, because people are looking for like something in the immediate. They want like quick turn around, because all these, get rich quick syndrome will affect people. So people don't actually understand the concept of investment. Those who understand it have profited from it over the years, because they understand the fact that after like 5 years, you see like 10 naira. Then at the point it just drops, it goes like 2 naira. People like have lost money. And people understand this concept, understand the fact that you need to wait like 5, 10, 20 years. Some even invest not for themselves, but for their children. Right? So unfortunately, the generation that we currently have, we believe that once you invest like another 1 month, you should actually become something. So which makes Ponzi scheme to actually thrive. Yeah. So that's actually diluted the concept of investment in Nigeria. And so I mean that affects a lot, when it comes to investment. But generally the landscape has been the way it's always been across the globe. But Nigerians just need to understand that it's a different ballgame when it comes to investment. So, I mean, that's just been the dynamics and the story over time. But the instruments remain the same, anyways.
Right. So, talking about exploring alternative investment opportunities right now, even in Nigeria or globally, what are those kinds of investment that we can get into? I mean, a lot of us are making money here and there. We don't want to leave our money lying fallow. I mean, you've talked about bonds, you've talked about stocks. Are there other forms of investment, things that we can track? Using maybe today in the economic standards, it means that whatever up to date with those information, what kind of alternative investment opportunities do you think are out there? Or would you suggest or advise?
Okay, so I think that would give you an opportunity to talk briefly about my business, the business that I represent. So what we've observed over time is during the global meltdown and all the economic crises that happened across the world, we found that there's a particular asset class that seems not to be affected by all these forces, and that is art. It's talking about visual arts and other forms of art. Prior to now, people believe that this is the exclusive reserve of the rich, the wealthy, because of course they're the ones who have the means to collect artworks worth 10,000, 20,000 to millions of dollars and keep it as more store value for them. Now, so what we have seen over the years is that asset class has been consistent over the years, and the growth has been really significant and can actually be tracked. So we felt like as a business that, I mean, coming from a group of investors and investment company, so we felt like it is important to begin to open the eyes of Nigerians to this alternative investment platform or solutions. So we started with art and the company called Artspring in this asset class that prior to now we thought like is reserved to the for the rich. So of co-ownership in investments. So don't call it crowd. So that's like for as low as $1. Instead of you entering the investment at $100,000, you enter the investment with $1. Right? So the more you can buy, the better for you. Now, what happens is immediately you buy those, we call them splits. That's where the name splits come from, right? So we call them split, 100,000 splits, which as low as $1, some even 20 cents. With the value of that is $20,000, 20 cents per split, right? You buy the split, you bid for it anyways. It's not like you can just buy it slightly because you have to be competing. There are a lot of people who want to buy part of this thing. So sometimes you have 500 people bidding for a particular artwork. So it begins to drive the value of the assets. You is investing with 20 cents. If you're not careful, somebody who has bid with 22 cents will outbid you and buy more for them, and you will lose out on the opportunity. So what we do is that you allow you to bid and you determine the market, the new price for that particular asset. So by the time all of you put your funds into it, you invest, you buy splits. The question now is, this is a physical artwork. Who is going to keep a physical custody of that asset? Exactly. Right? So what we now do is we introduce another solution called the lease concept. Lease concept is where somebody will bid to own that work for a period of time. Now, that is to create immediate return on investment for are putting extra margin on their investment, are selling it off. The minute that is happening, it's automatically configuring the new price for that asset. Now, in another 5 years, or say 1 year, or 2 years, or 3 years, as the case may be, you want to keep your asset for a long time, the value of that asset will begin to appreciate in the market. Now, you may want to exit your investment. You exit it and have your returns. But one thing we have done successfully is that even that lease that I mentioned earlier, it goes out every 2 years. So that means every 2 years you are getting dividends on your investments. It goes into your portfolio, increase your portfolio balance. And then the artwork itself is appreciating itself every year now. And I can tell you that from what we have done so far, there have been opportunities. Another one that we also saw was the music. If you notice, Afrobeat has become adopted across the world. So you'll see people want to collaborate with Thames, with Davido, with Wizkid and stuff. And people who understand the landscape are making huge money from these artists across the world because they are subscribing to streaming platforms, right? As of today, what we have as data is that there are about 368 million people who are subscribed to all these streaming platforms called Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and the like, right? People are streaming music, and artists is earning money from those streaming. So the artist is just keeping the money, and you're just vibing to the guy's music, and the guy's making money, and you're just there, you're spending your money. Can't you just make extra money from these guys? So that's another thing we also discovered, and we call it music space on that aspect. So what that does is that a project is coming out from an artist. The artist will require some funds to do that, right? And so what we'll do is pull in funds. All of you come and buy split into come and invest in the album or besides before it is released. Now, once the investors put in their funds and the album is released, every month when the artist is earning royalties, percentage that they own of that particular album is being paid into their wallet monthly.
Events or something like that. But yeah, I'll come to you, Alera and EC as well.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. From the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
If you're just tuned in, we're exploring alternative investment opportunities in Nigeria with Muyiwa. Please let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the
and skeptical investor. What are the parameters that you think people like us should look out for when we want to make an investment decision?
So in making investment decisions, you need to look at one, what is actually the antecedents of players in that field. You need to look at two, you need to go into researching to understand how the particular asset class that you are going to invest in actually matters. So for instance, the trends, right? And one of the key things I would just say about music is the fact that music royalties have the capacity of delivering 2 digits for you, in all honesty, because it is not subjected, it's not independent, so it's dependent of public markets. So the normal economic forces that determine buy and sell and trading does not actually affect that class, right? And then thank God for technology.
Right.
So it has actually blown it up, and then it makes it easy for anyone to invest.
So there's a place that you can look at it?
Exactly. So there are dashboards where you can actually go and study what is being paid as royalties to artists. You know when they stream particular numbers steady. And of course, there's always almost CAGR growth of about, say, 2.something%, 6%, and it grows. So these are the things that you need to begin to look at when you're looking at. So you need to actually take your time to study the industry and the asset class.
I'm really excited to hear that at least the customer can see a projection. Yes. Because I mean, I would want to have an idea of how is it going. Yeah. And I think another thing again is that focusing on
alternative investment opportunities for every African, basically. So let's look at it from a holistic point of view. How can a tech-savvy individual or a non-tech-savvy individual actually synergize to create or explore alternative investment?
I know that ordinarily I would never be able to afford it. I'm not saying, considering my financial state at the moment, I'm just saying an average person. Then what you now do is, okay, you know what? How can I use technology in this case? Maybe an app. It could even be a web app or something. So let me create something that allows several of us to actually co-own these assets, then watch it grow over time, and then we trade it. So that's something that can be made possible for a tech-savvy person, because in this case, you understand the concept of technology. You can use that one to drive it. Now, for an average person who is not even tech-savvy, what the person would depend on more largely is investment for that. So it's a function of looking around you. So looking at opportunity around you, looking at concept that you can commoditize, and then you can use technology to actually leverage to drive. The market forces also drive the value, and also how do I want to put it this way? More like driving value. This is technology to what are the basic things? Because the principle is the same all over the world. whatever it is they're doing. What matters is what the edge you can actually add to it. What solution can you add to it to actually grow it up and make it accessible to actually invest in? So that's really what I was going to say to you in response to that. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, so you see, you're going to say something. Physical artwork, and I want to put out my artwork for people to invest in. Do I get money from that? How does that work?
So for artists, for instance, who want to get money from his work, right, or want people to invest in his work, there are different ways to go about it. There are different businesses or different platforms that do quite a few anyways. But I think, and I referred to a business earlier, such business allow you to put your work up for splits. For people can actually buy into it. So you can actually use such technology platform to drive the sale of your asset. And you can go to auction houses. Right, so you put your work there because, I mean, maybe you did the work 20 years ago. I have an instance of an artist who had come to say, this work was done in 1983. I said, I want to actually put it up because I need money. And for that artist, the work can price between $8,000 and $20,000. And maybe the artist is late and the asset of the artist want to trade it. You're talking about hundreds of thousands because the works are now scarce. They're no longer available to, the man cannot recreate those works. So they are now scarce. So the person actually goes and then sell. So these are the ways, of course, they will make money because it's an investment.
Or other avenues for investment.
Okay, so you have mentioned our cultural heritage and stuff. So we are looking at instances talking about collectibles, memorabilia in this case, like cultural collectives. You are looking at old coins that people would die to have, right? So these are some of the things that we can actually also put as investment class. Like I said, all we need to do is look around and say, what exactly can we even turn into an asset and make money of? So talking about our cultural values and current exchange, for instance, and which is one of the things that we're talking about. Even tourism could actually be one of the things that you see as an investment, because you have sites, you have stuff that can actually convert into so many things that can yield profit for people over the years. Because investment in tourism, you have several cultural sites and stuff that you can actually invest their money in and then bring in tourism in exchange for all of these things. These are investments. These are long-term investment, mid-term investment. So, I mean, thank you so much, JC. These are the things that we can actually look at. Like I said, look around. There are quite a lot of things that we can actually do and turn into money.
I wanted to just quickly add something. This conversation is making me feel happier. You remember when, growing up, when you tell your mom or your dad that you want to be an artist? Now, please, you're an artist. Don't just lose hope, because now there is an opportunity for your artwork to actually, see a lot of for people to get to see your artwork and for you to make money. Because now the Africans actually pushing for this, and encourage your children to go into art, please. Please do.
Noted.
Thank you, Laura, for saying that, because really it's something that we need to consider and start doing.
Okay, let's talk about NFTs. So I know that in Nigeria right now we have some sort of policies and all of that against non-fungible tokens and things like that. So has that in any way affected alternative investments, especially in art and music?
Yes, it has, and also looking at the volatility of that space as well. We've had instances a couple of months ago when people almost ran mad because people of their subject. So, and those are some of the things that the government is also trying to prevent, because we understand the fact that one, they can't be traced, they can't be landscape, so to see how are we shopkeeper as well, and also ensure that it's properly regulated, because anything can happen within that space and nobody can hold anyone against it. So it's something that's governments even around the world are still also, there are some that are completely open to it, as what, we open to it and it's good. I mean, they're either biting their fingers and like, what, we can still regulate it. But I think it's something we still need to study over time. I as much as we try not to encourage investment in that space, but I try not to also dissuade anybody from doing it. It's a function of, I risk, I yield sometimes.
Of course.
So I mean, it's something that's very open.
Okay. All right. I know that this is a conversation that if we continue, there are so many parts that we can actually
agree.
She should not be an artist.
No, it's not even that, because I know about how many young people actually want to study art. They have the interest, they have the talent. However, my child has to be a doctor, my child has to be an engineer, my child has to be an accountant. But I mean, now the art and music industry is actually, creating an avenue for us to make money. So encourage, it's a good field to encourage anybody to go into, so that you can be a billionaire.
Interesting. I mean, there are quite a number of artists today who sell 7 digits.
Yeah.
And they're Nigerians. And you wonder what's going on in this place. I went with one young chap about 27, and he was telling me that if you're not willing to buy this for $100,000, please take a walk.
Be confident.
Like, oh my, okay.
Like I'll go, all those my daughters join.
See?
I'll go and pick it up from.
Please
there.
encourage her.
I told you that there was a person who
Okay,
took a
what's-
picture.
I want to ask one quick question, please. How do you look out for individuals who are probably fraudulent? Because we have people who could be fraudulent.
You have to look at it very careful and look at them, ensure that there are regulatory bodies, and because before they approve them, it takes a lot for approval to allow such organizations to run in this country or anywhere in the climb. So regulators and the likes will also help you to determine how fraudulent they are.
Thank you so much, Miwa. It was quite an insightful conversation we had, and then we look forward to having more conversations like this as we go on. Thank you, ladies, for joining us tonight as well.
Thank you.
All right, before we go, do ensure you follow us on Instagram at Wayshow Africa. You can interact with us further. Drop a comment, and most importantly, follow all our social media engagements. And remember to like, share, comment, and invite your friends and family to watch us and follow us. If you missed today's quotes, here it is again. The individual investor should act consistently as an investor and not as a speculator. And this is by Ben Graham. See you tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Bye.
My name is Sonya Onoyoade. I reminisce my good old days with an uncommon nostalgia. For me, my days of yore were lived fully from humble beginning. Born in Bere and raised in Inolende, Ibadan, the commonality of our abode made it possible for everybody to Dakeke, but raised all their children in Ibadan. My early beginning revolved around Inolende, where I spent my infancy, and which harbored Ebenezer Primary School that I attended. It was a life of school and football, kite flying and sand dunes molded from a foot stuck into the sandy ground. Okoto was a plaything, just like Agbalumo seed, set on a hill and which played host to visitors and tourists and could be seen from every nook of the ancient city. A saying dedicated to this tower against those not conversant with the complexity of the city is Ibadolomo or Molayipo, meaning that you only know Ibadan but not the Bars Tower, which locals called Layipo due to its rotunda nature and because you have to climb up its zenith in a spiral stairs. Inolende was communal by every sense of it. Every naming ceremony or traditional wedding, freedom from apprenticeship or sundry events did not require formal invites. Such events were for the community and children were expected to attend, huddled together in a choreographed manner around large bowls of rice, irrespective of religious lineage. Ramadan was a time we looked forward to as children of Christian faith because we would wake up to eat Sahari, and some evenings were filled with itinerant musicians who played were a Fuji genre with Islamic lyrical underpinnings. Sikiru Ayinde, later called Barrister, was a regular team lead in the locality in those days. Will I forget sucking in their superlative acrobatic displays and guttural incantations? Young folks, especially those from humble background like me, found the serendipity of Ibadan around the 70s and the 80s. Odo Dandaru, a stream on the fringe of Mokola, was our swimming bay, and the elevator of Kingsway in Dugbe was our playground. Except for Cocoa House and a couple of high-rise buildings, the skyline was not dotted with skyscrapers, yet the serenity of Ibadan was profound, and the security unimpeachable. Family values were strong in my good old days. During school holidays, we would follow our father to his farm in Idiya, a village settlement in the outskirts of Ibadan. Farms were not an attractive sector to kidnappers or armed robbers then. It was fun in the farm, making small fires to roast corn or yam or rabbit caught by midnight traps. In the twilights of the day, while going back to the village from the farm or sitting around the fireplace in the village hut, Father would regale us with stories of life, wisdom nuggets and politics of yore. It was in one such sitting, so there were less distractions. There was nobility of character among students and lecturers. Cultism, sex for marks, student prostitution, and absenteeism were only hush words, unlike now that those vices are threatening the survival of the academia. Our children need to know how we roll back in the days and begin to invent a more quality life. They deserve better today and brighter future, so that they can also have their own good old life. I am joining Sir Shemore Badijo in this patriotic drive. How about you? Won't you rather join us? Thank you.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
We've talked about premarital counseling, finding love after a failed marriage, and the before and after of I do. Today, we're talking about sexual compatibility. When one says sex, people cringe in their seats, become awkward and uncomfortable. But the funny thing is, every living being has sex to create life. Plants, animals, humans, none of us would be here with us. So why do we think it's okay to be sexually misaligned with our partner? And more importantly, what causes this lack of alignment? Let's ask my guest. Emmanuel Eme is an integrative life coach and associate coach at Olushola Lanre Coaching Academy. With a specialism in marriage and relationship, leadership, and behavioral change coaching. In his over 20 years of experience coaching, he has helped a wide variety of a number of individuals and couples. He's passionate about coaching young people, particularly men, on the various relationship topics, of which sex is included. Welcome, Emmanuel.
Thank you, Pharaoh.
I'm so happy. You know, we've been having a lot of banter.
Finally, we're here.
Off air, yes. Finally, we're here.
Yeah.
So let's delve right in. What does sexual compatibility mean?
Wow, that was quick.
We've got a lot to talk about in a short timeline.
Sexual compatibility. It's not something you buy. It's not something that just happens. Something that evolves, actually, between two people to be compatible. And I promise you I was going to make an illustration.
And I was nervous,
simple,
but yes.
Very simple. Now, this is an airboard.
Yes.
So you heard that.
You pair it.
So for the fact that this is meant for this does not automatically mean that they work together all the time.
You have to pair.
Yes, so it's something you work on, compatibility. People don't say, okay, I'm compatible. You're not compatible until you come together. Decide.
I actually, I was nervous about the illustration. I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a bird and a beast type illustration.
No.
Okay, cool. Okay. So, why is it important in the success or decline of a marriage?
It's very, very important in the success or decline, because sex is not just for procreation, like people think it is. Some of our great-grandparents thought it's just for procreation, but it's also for pleasure. It's also it's recreational, actually. So if you have good sex, it helps you. If you have bad sex, it works against you. And I'm sure you're going to be talking more about that as we go. But I had to take the wind out of you with this first.
You definitely did. You definitely did. When you say if you have good sex versus if you have bad sex, can you explain that a bit more?
All right. As a married person, when I have good sex with my wife, I'm fired up. I'm excited. As someone who has counseled hundreds of couples, I remember one woman told me, she's very open. She said, whenever myself and my husband have sex, he is so relaxed. He does everything. He cleans the whole room. There is nothing the woman will ask the husband. In fact, for husbands, for wives actually, if you want to get a yes from your husband every time, have great sex with your spouse. Then you see people, and even with my own relationship.
Okay, so you've talked about what it does if you have good sex. If you have bad sex, what happens?
Oh, man, you are grumpy. Listen, if you go to the office or you meet a guy or a woman, whatever, and they are grumpy, people don't ask about that. How was it? If people are happy, people don't assume that they probably had good sex. I was at the airport one time, and there was this custom officer. She was very jovial. She came in. And when I said, you are looking, it's spoken Yoruba language. I say, Atiji Ajeyo. If you understand what... I'm going to illustrate something. Roughly 15 years ago, I was playing Scrabble with my son. So you can imagine how old he is now. He was in primary school, and we're doing Scrabble. And Scrabble, I'll take my turn if I don't have the alphabet, and face just went down. I said, see, not just Nigeria, all over the world. People think it's so sacred. And you talk about religion. I don't know why people don't read the Bible the way it should be read. God created man and woman. We are sexual beings first. Number one, we are sexual. Male and female, he created them. Even before Eve came, there was a concept of male and female. Yeah. So for them not to be compatible, they have to come together and now work things out. So in our society, we cannot shy away. I don't know how it started, but I grew up with it also. My parents never spoke to me about sex. The first time I heard about sex was from my friends. And we talk about it when our parents were not really.
So how did that impact your sex life, not being able to talk about it openly from a young age?
Yeah, ignorance. That's what. Ignorance. And ignorance is not bliss. A lot of stuff I grew up not knowing. And so because I didn't know, you now have to now determine what should be. And that's why a lot of people make a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes, really. So more young people go into pornography. They want to learn. Not now that pornography is very, very common. In my days, you don't buy those magazines everywhere. Yeah. They are sold wherever. So I remember a time, one of my friends brought a pornography magazine. And everybody crowded around. They were looking, how. So they wanted to find out, because as human beings, we are created to be curious. And this is actually part of our life. And that is why a man will leave his father and mother.
Back to this, the concept of sexual incompatibility. You've talked about some of the reasons why it happens, but what do you think are the root causes why couples are not compatible sexually?
All right. To answer that question, I'm going to show you my second illustration.
Okay. You like illustrations? Okay.
I'm a teacher, by the way.
Okay.
Someone has been using an old model Android phone, right? All right, so the person buys a new one.
Okay.
So let's somebody had a girlfriend, he gets married or whatever. And all of a sudden you want to charge, and you try plugging it in, and you don't know there's a type C. You get what I mean? So ignorance is number one. People don't know. So people simply import what they thought they knew into a relationship, into stuff, and it doesn't fit. And when you force it, it will damage so many things. So that's actually where the problem starts from. Number one, there is no knowledge.
Okay.
And people say wisdom is knowledge applied. Halfway. Wisdom had to be learned. When I counsel people, now I have a Christian worldview. So when I counsel people, there's a point I come to. I say, now it's time to talk about sex. I went to honeymoon and nothing happened for months. I mean months. What are your fantasies? You communicate then. Look, what are your values? Okay, I'm not going to say much, but somebody wanted blowjob.
Okay.
Then finally there had to be compromise. Okay, this is what I'm going to.
Yeah. How do those things impact compatibility?
Yeah, emotional state of mind. Sometimes people don't talk about it. So some years ago, I had a privilege of counseling a couple. Now I'm going to be very discreet. And the one of the spouse, one of them, very frigid. Mm-hmm. It so happened that this person was raped. So whenever they are in the act, those flashes. Mm. And in counseling, we do what they call the timeline therapy, where we take them all the way back. We identify the trigger points, and we try to help them, because experiences are like rubber band. You might pull it, but it goes with you. Eventually, it will snap. And when it snaps, guess what?
Who is more impacted by trauma, male
Both.
or female?
Now, impacted, yes, I think that's the word. Everybody has trauma. But the men are more impacted because they don't talk. Most men don't talk. There's this thing, I don't know how it started, where men are also supposed to be vulnerable. They're also now men talk at the bed parlor when they're with their, but they don't talk to women. They don't share their feelings. Again, I'll use my family. So my son was 13 years old, and we go play soccer every single week at University of Lagos. He was tackled by some big boys. These are university students. He fell and was bruised, and they all came and said, "Oh, Henry, don't cry. Men are so, you are a man." And I said, "Hold on, guys. Men should cry." I'm sure they heard it somewhere in their family. So because of that, men are more impacted without knowing it. Now, when men bring that dysfunction to women, women suffer more.
I see.
Yeah, they suffer more. When is the man that is most impacted? They just dump that impact on the woman. So women become the sufferers of somebody's trauma.
How do we fix that?
Now, I can see you are thinking, right?
Yeah, because
I can see you are thinking. And I think it's something that we need to all slow down and begin to think through. The men need to share their own experiences. Women also need to share. Men will tell you, "Oh, since my wife gave birth, she's married to our child." And men also need to understand that the woman all of a sudden shifts from the man, and the baby now becomes the new husband. But men can't say it. Now, men tell me that, but they know how to tell their wives. So that's why communication is. And number two, the breast that was exclusively for the man is now being shared by the son. And women do understand that. That is when, so communication, we need to be vulnerable. I had to get to the point where I was broken.
How so?
Yeah, I was broken because I came from a background where you don't talk about things like this.
Okay.
Now I am teaching it. You can imagine the man draw it. And some people were, and they name it. What will you call it? So we had names like Bongola, names like Abuja, names like I'm sorry, I said the same way you are reacting. No, it just releases the like this is normal. This is this is harmless.
Okay, so it's harmless. Again, as much as we're having a lot of fun having this conversation, I don't want us to miss, or I don't want the listener to miss the fact that this is a very, very, very important part of existence.
Very serious.
Because it's destroying a lot of relationships.
Yeah.
How do we begin to retrace our steps?
Again, I'll go out to communication. Let's talk. First, you need to talk. Awareness. Then you need to own up that it is a problem. there is a problem. And that's why vulnerability is. There's a problem. Sometimes there are men who find it very hard to gain and sustain erection, but they are too embarrassed to talk about it or to tell their wife. And rather they blame their wives. You too like sex. I've heard all this stuff. A man even called you are a shower. Why can't you just be humble? Because that's communication. The woman needs to say, okay, this is how I want it. This is how I like it. And the man also be able to say, let's talk about it. Maybe teach me. Teach me. Now, most men are missionaries, if you know what. Okay, traditionalists, right? Okay. Yes, so they don't explore and they're not open to new ideas. They think new ideas is like,
what, the men or the women?
Let's talk about the men right now. A man will say, my wife has sports. My wife is sports. Which house did you come from? They sport you. No.
True.
No, it's like somebody who maybe you are used to just eating a kind of food. Maybe you've had a stomach upset once and you think all food, everything is bad. But it takes some risk. Just try out. And I've seen situations where now as a woman, she was a little bit more open to it. And guess what? So they came back to me about a few months later. You know what the woman said? Go and talk to him. He's a weak man. And I turn around right now. It's like, you know what I said? I told the man, I said, okay, you need to apologize to your wife. In fact, you need to shake her with 2 hands.
Okay, so essentially, initially, the man
she now turned around,
was not interested.
And now, the man was blaming the wife. Oh, she's too frigid, she's too whatever. When the woman eventually got it, he's not the one running away. Well, I said, okay, wherever. And the woman now came to me and said, okay, you need to tell him, he needs to up his game.
But isn't that still sexual incompatibility? Because
it was... This where they were just less than 1 year married. So he said they're just trying to find it. And so that's what I'm saying. It takes patience. It takes communicating. Don't just be upset, but find out until... You see, if you want to do this, you have to be intentional. Because it has to be the wrong way. But if you... Now there might be an automatic way. People think it doesn't work that way most of the time. Your normal USB, you have to make sure it aligns right.
Yes.
And that's why they came up with Type C.
Yes.
You don't need alignment. Yes. Right? You just but this only happened after we have tried how it's supposed to work. Right. And that's how compatibility. Right now, anyway fits. I'm trying to respect you.
Yeah, I get that. I hope the people listening get that.
Fero is such a great host.
Okay, so I have one final main question that I want to ask you. What is the impact of a bad sex life on the community?
Okay.
Because a lot of people walk around.
I'll give you an illustration.
Like it's okay.
I went to see my doctor some time ago. And he said, Emmanuel, if you don't eat every day, you will be okay, not too happy. If you don't drink water after a few days, whatever. So if you don't sleep enough, you're going to go mad. My doctor told me. You can imagine COVID era, we are walking around the clock. I was on the screen almost every time, teaching, speaking, and everything. So you can imagine someone who hasn't slept for days. Okay, so the same way, there's no outlets. When we sleep, we rejuvenate. We relax. That's actually when you grow. That's when your cells grow. Yes. Now, if somebody is not sexually active, if you're in a relationship not sexually active,
if you're in a committed
relationship, yeah, okay, that's commitment. That's the third C. We usually have three C's: the commitment, the communication, then that you shoot that helps you be happy. Those hormones. Happy